Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the long-awaited Spawn figure from McFarlane Toys, part of the Spawn line, not the Mortal Kombat line. This is classic Spawn, traditional Spawn, the namesake of the franchise. And it's $50 at retail, and it doesn't come with a cape, not really. And it doesn't come with any other weapons or accessories or things other than this big chair. So some people are all jazzed about it anyway. Some people are really upset about it. We're going to talk about all the things. So let's go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. Real quick before we get to the video, guys, I have to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Into the AM. They are the amazing t-shirt people, and they're having a sale going on right now. It's 25% off site-wide. Can't recommend that enough. I tell you guys all the time I would buy them even at full price, and I would. They're wonderful, wonderful shirts. I'll talk about that in a second. But with 25% off site-wide, you really can't beat it. If you ever wanted to try them out now. Not only do they have a sale going on for the rest of the weekend, but they do have a whole bunch of new designs. This is one of them. I really like the whole, cyberpunky space vibe combo. We have a bunch of cool colors on this one, some melting planets like that. Just all kinds of really unique designs. This one's very cartoon, comic, anime-esque. You know, they just have all kinds of stuff. A little bit of something for everyone. This is my style, but there's tons of other things. There's like hippie type stuff or skulls, you know, whatever you want. They have all kinds of different things, and not only graphic tees, but that is what I focus on because I think they're wonderful. They fit great. I get compliments on them all the time. No joke, while my wife is giving birth, not like during the actual process, but like just before, the doctor doing it complimented the shirt that I was wearing, which was one of these. So these are great shirts. Everybody likes them that I wear them in front of, and I love them. My wife loves them. Everybody loves them, so check them out. There is a link in the description below, and again, it's 25% off site-wide this weekend, so go check them out. This guy stands just about 7 1/4 inches, just above that, maybe 7 3/8, and that's going to make him pretty close to, let's say, 18.5 centimeters, probably just a touch beyond that. And before we get into the rest of the review, let me just do a quick question of the day. Which version of Spawn is your favorite? Is it the boot? Is it no boot? Is it cape? No cape? Let me know what you think. I personally think the cape is cool, but as far as collectibles go, I am good with this look right here. Matches the Soul Calibur design pretty much. Not to say this figure, but this general look. No cape and boot is fine with me. I know the boot is stupid, but it gives him a little bit of character, so that's my take on it. Okay, so let's get into the aesthetic first, but even before that, let's do a quick comparison. I know you guys want to see it. This is the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn next to this Spawn. And you'll notice the difference mainly being everything. It's not the same figure. It doesn't use the same parts. It does look like a lot of the parts are kind of like retooled and then reused, but as far as I can tell, every part is new. Is that a good thing? Honestly, it's not, because the MK11 Spawn is exceptionally well done, and this Spawn is less well done. Honestly speaking, it's not as good. And I'm going to be referencing this figure a lot, so I'm going to keep pulling him out probably as we go, but this one does leave a lot to be desired for my tastes, and even some objective things, so we'll be referencing this back and forth. But the main difference I want to note is that this guy is black rather than gray, and his white spots are a lot wider than the beige on here. And obviously he does not have that wrinkly design that the MK11 Spawn has. Okay, so aesthetically speaking, for the black parts, it is just black. There's no shading anywhere on him. Same thing for the white. There's nothing going on. And then even for the red, I don't think there's a wash or anything there anywhere on this figure. I don't see a wash. If it's there, it's very much just the same color red that we already have, so nothing stands out there. As far as the detail paintwork, the little studs are painted nicely. You can see that's pretty good. It's nice and silver, and they're fairly accurate. No noticeable problems there, especially down here on the boot. They did a good job with that. Down here, it's not as clean, but pretty good. The red paintwork is clean where it is painted on. A lot of this is molded plastic, so that's all fine. There's no detail work on the pouches at all. And they missed this up here, which is very strange because every image I can find of this traditional Spawn, this part is painted red, and it's even sculpted. You can see that let me see if I can zoom in a little tighter. You can see the sculpted gauntlet part going up along the forearm here, and then down here on the wrist. And they just didn't paint it, so it looks weird, not good. And that's not okay. Now let's talk about the face really quick. I think they did a really good job with the face. There is a little bit of shading, as you can see there. Good sculpt work. The white is super clean. No problems there. What paint is on here is very clean. It's just not the most amount of paint. And for a $50 figure and all it gets is a chair, I'm a little questioning. But we'll get to that in a second. The other thing I want to mention specifically is that this guy's proportions aren't quite as good as I was hoping they would be. If you look at most of the Spawn artwork, like I know he's not super bulky, but he definitely has a V shape. And this guy barely has a V shape. The MK11 Spawn has much more of a V shape in his torso, and he looks way more heroic than this one. This guy's shoulders are kind of saggy and down compared to this one, even though this one's smaller. He does have that extra cap in there that gives him a little bit of extra movement. This guy's cap is basically, I mean, it's not really doing anything. It's just kind of filling in a little bit of a gap for a slight butterfly, which we'll talk about. But I would definitely pop his shoulders out some. I'll do a Photoshop for you guys. I know you like that. So it's just a little bit lacking. And then in his pecs look a whole lot less defined. We get a whole lot of meat in the front center, like right in line with this part of the M. There's a whole lot of meat there and not a lot of meat out here by the nipple. And that's where you get a lot of the meat in the pec. If you look at any bodybuilder or any comic book character, you see most of the meat out here, not in here. So he has a very forward chest in the center and not much width or thickness. So it does give him a much less strong look. He looks fairly frail, in fact. I mean, compared to what he should look like compared to most other figures. He's got a very narrow chest, and you can see it just lines up straight with his waist. No superhero's chest is in line with his waist. Not anyone that has any kind of muscle at all. So that's a little bit of a bummer. Also kind of noteworthy, I didn't even notice this until I had this guy out. The new Spawn's hands are huge. He's got gigantic hands compared to the rest of his body. I thought they were going to reuse the same hands, but they didn't, and the new ones are really, really big. Look at the difference. They're gigantic. They're really big. The other thing that's really big is his diaper. This Spawn's diaper is very low, and that's how it should be. It looks better when it's down low, close to like that V shape in the pelvis. This guy's goes up quite high, like he's actually wearing pants. And it destroys the look of his waist. It makes his pelvis look really tall, makes his waist look really short, and it has no sculpt work really on it either, so it throws off the look quite a bit. It's also a slightly different color. Another thing I noticed, it's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of things I noticed. The belt is super chunky and goofy looking compared to this belt, for instance, like just sculpt work wise. Look how nice and refined this one is. I know it's not the same design exactly, but this one's really cheap looking. It's sloppy. It doesn't have a refined sculpt at all. It's very, very soft, whereas this one's nice and sharp. See the difference? Not pleased with that. And then the last thing is just the way they did the M, and I mean that comes down to personal preference, but I would personally prefer to have more of this shape. Not the MK11 shape, but the more V shape. And I guess they really couldn't do that because of how narrow the chest is. So they had to make it very skinny and very narrow, and it throws off the look. Like, that's not a big deal, and once you pose him, you probably won't notice it. But this Spawn just doesn't quite have quite enough thickness. I know he's not supposed to be bulky, but this doesn't match the artwork. So again, I'll do a Photoshop and you'll see what I'm talking about. It would make him look a lot nicer. Doing this M on Photoshop is going to be a total pain in the ass. We'll see how that goes. But otherwise, it sounds like a lot of problems. These are all the problems. Like, that's what a review is for. It still does look good overall. The general proportioning is fine. If you don't mind the narrow chest, then most of it's going to look good. Big hands are fine, generally speaking. Street Fighter says hello. And it just looks good overall. It's clean, could use more paint, and I am going to be more critical on this figure because it costs $50. The back, it's very much just a shape with detail sculpted into it rather than actually having back muscles. And the back's a really good example of how narrow this figure is. He does not have the right look for a superhero slash anti-hero slash whatever you want to call him. So it's a little bit of a bummer. This is super sloppy again, and the chains just float out there too. So yeah, a lot left to be desired on this figure. It's not terrible by any means, and for the aesthetic, I'll give it a 7. It's not terrible, it's just not what I was expecting for a $50 figure. Speaking of the price point, let's talk accessories. The main accessory is this chair, which, yeah, it's cool enough, and it matches the artwork that it's supposed to match, but it's also really poorly done. Like, terribly. It's mostly all just brown with a wash on it. You get a little bit of gray for some skulls, like right here, a little bit around here. The skulls aren't even shaped properly though. Like if you look at this one, it's like, okay, that's a skull. But then if you turn sideways, it's very warped. It's not shaped well. And there's guns and pouches and ammo belts and everything. Motorcycle handles, everything you could think of sticking out of this thing. A saw blade, none of it painted. Just a little bit of a gray dry brush here and there for some of the bones. For the spines, it's not even well done. It's just sloppy. Giant gun sticking out here. Motorcycle handle here. Nothing is painted. It doesn't look good. I don't see the point. I don't see the point. There's a cape chunk attached to here, and that's because you can sit him in here like I showed you in the beginning, and you can stick this bit of cape on his back. And so that gives him the look of a cape, but it's nowhere near enough cape, and it's certainly not enough cape for him to actually look good while wearing it. Like you would never, ever put this on him while he's not in the chair. So yeah, you can make your own, but who gives a crap? That's not what this is about. And for $50, give us a secondary part for the cape, because this is ridiculous. This is useless. It is only good for the chair, and it's also sloppy. Where the skulls are, look at the shape of the skulls. They look awful. They look awful. I mean, I made a custom spawn forever ago, and I'm pretty sure it looks better than this. It was a lot thicker. We used a Venom body. Anyway, this is not a particularly good figure. And the last accessory is the display stand, which is kind of ironic since he comes in with a chair to sit in, but you do get the display stand because we have to use that. So accessory-wise, I'm going to go 3 out of 10. The chair is awful, the cape is worthless, and the display stand worthless. No alternate hands, no accessories for him to hold. Very, very disappointing. As far as articulation goes, the head, it's on a double ball peg, but it doesn't look up. Like, that's it. Doesn't look up. It looks down okay. Leans side to side well enough. It does rotate, of course. That's fine. The shoulders I already showed you. You get your little bit of extra range in that ball peg. Not a ton, but it's there. Raising the arms up works okay. No problems there. They're a little loose, but it's not too bad. Full rotation. That's fine. My goodness, his shoulders are narrow. Bicep swivel is acceptable, though kind of gappy. Double jointed elbow works nicely, no problems there. It's still a little bit chunky down here, like there's some cavities going on, but it's not too bad. Wrist hinge, it's a ball hinge. You get plenty of good range, that's fine. I'm thinking, do you guys want me to make more axes to sell? Do you guys want some more of the axes from Soul Calibur to go with this spawn, since this basically is that figure? I think I might do that after I finish these Wolverine heads. I'm like halfway done with those. So once I'm done with those, I'll make some more axes, I think, and sell you guys some more axes if you want them. Torso, we get a double ball peg. He does lean back, but it instantly turns into a gap, so that's a problem. Doesn't lean forward all that much. That's kind of a bummer. Side to side is really good, surprisingly. Really, really nice. And then at the lower torso, it just kind of wiggles around. Not so far forward, but otherwise it's pretty good. Of course, you get your rotation out of it, so that's fine. For the hips, they go all the way out to the side. They're fairly loose, but not floppy, but they're close. A little bit of a jiggle and he'll go, so you might take some shelf dives with this guy. Good thing he has a chair. Bringing the legs forward, surprisingly, they didn't sculpt the diaper to conveniently bring the legs forward, so you really have to do some wedging in there. But they do go forward and back. Thigh swivel is built into the hip. It's very basic. Double jointed knee works fine, no problems there. And then the ankle on this side, ball hinge, it's very floppy. Good range, of course. Toe hinge is acceptable, but it's not great. And on this side, it's basically like the MK11 spawn. You get your ball hinge in there, foot can't go forward, but the toe hinge works. So it is acceptable. Let's see if I can speak without stuttering. So articulation on this guy is fine. It's not as good as it could be. This guy's articulation is a little bit better. All around, this figure is a lot better. Very, very disappointing. Anyway, articulation on this guy, 7 out of 10. It's fine. And now it's time for a final verdict. Buy this one. If you really want it to be solid black, get some flat black paint and just paint this one. This figure is nowhere near as good as this figure. This figure costs $50. It comes with a giant chair that's no good. This figure costs $20 or $25 and comes with a weapon and a cape and is painted way better. It's not silver on the chains and spikes, but it's way nicer looking. This one's more traditional. This one's way better. Do the heads pop off and swap? Not that you would really want to do that, but I guess you could. I can't imagine somebody paying $50 for... Okay. Well, that's not going to work. Yeah, technically they would, if you could manage to somehow get a cast of this, I guess, and then swap them out. Come on, camera, focus. That head does look really nice on that body, and that's probably what they should have just done for the actual release. But they don't match, obviously, so you'd have to repaint and swap the heads, and I'm not sure, because the ball peg popped off with it, if they're going to be... It looks like it's probably the same ball peg. Hard to say for sure, because this isn't like a customizing tutorial. I'm just doing this on the fly. But you could probably make it work, but you'd have to get a cast. Oh, come on. I'll just set that aside. You would have to get a cast of the new head anyway. But I don't know, guys. What do you think? I'm totally let down. For 50 bucks, this figure is a dud and a half. Like, holy crap. No paint work, really. And the sculpt work is soft. The articulation's not great. Not great proportions. It's acceptable for Spawn, but it's not what I would want it to be based on almost all the images are super exaggerated of him. So you're basically paying 40 bucks for an unpainted hunk of plastic and $20 for an only moderately painted figure with no accessories. So this is one of the worst, this is the worst release for anything Spawn related from McFarlane so far that I have reviewed, just because of the price point. Just because of the price point. If it was like 30 bucks, I'd be like, yeah, it's fine. But for another 20 bucks, we need some paint and accessories. Very disappointed. Let me know how you guys feel in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. And if you want to, you could share the video. You could share it if you liked it. You'd be like, hey, look at this great video. Or if you didn't like it, you could be like, hey, look at this terrible video. And just share it. That's something that would be nice. And if you haven't subscribed, you could do yourself a favor and subscribe. And it's probably a good idea, because I do have new videos almost every single day. Even with the baby, I'm still doing it. I haven't missed more than one day so far, so a little bit of credit, please. And also, I do have thousands and thousands of videos already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.